You're listening to Women's Issues, Women's Voices on 89.5 KOPN. I'm Corri Flaker Fraser. Women's Issues, Women's Voices is a feminist talk show with a rotating group of hosts. We offer a platform for women to share stories, discuss political issues, and offer concepts to expand the perceptual lens. On the last Monday of every month, Vic Day and I co-host the Goddess Hour. In these episodes, we explore divine feminine archetypes through embodiment, meditation, stories, and more. Hey, Vic.
Hi. And just good discussion.
And,
Yeah,
and just good discussion. In
yeah.
this episode, we're going to tip the scales from the compassionate and kind Kwan Yin, which we've discussed in previous episodes, to the destructive and life-altering, and I'm also going to add protective qualities of Kali.
Yeah.
We'll talk about why both are important and how to work with Kali energy.
Mm.
And I wanted to start the show talking about this metaphor of the story of the Lawn Lake Dam in Rocky Mountain National Park. It's upstream from Estes Park. It was constructed in 1903. And to tell me about this, there were farmers around there that needed more irrigation, so they constructed this dam. And then in 1931, they raised the dam because they needed more water. And
So it went
then the
from
dam wasn't
16
tended.
acres to like 40 acres. Right? It
Yes.
more than doubled. I mean, it was just, yeah, the lake
They
became
needed more.
more and more.
Yeah. So, and the dam wasn't tended very well. There were inspections that were missed, and it was very hard to get to. So they didn't keep the dam maintained as well as it should. And so on July 15th, 1982, the dam failed, and there was no warning for anyone. From the dam, a flood came and charged down the steep channel of the roaring river, eroded areas up to 50 feet deep, and the flood poured into Horseshoe Park, which is a basin, leaving giant boulders and large debris. The flood swept motels, residential structures, and mobile homes off their
Old
foundation.
people, right?
And people.
Yeah.
In the town of Estes Park, debris laden muddy water up to 5 feet deep poured through the business district. It damaged over 90% of the businesses. Destruction was the result of an overfull and undertended container.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 And so the audience might be wondering, how does this story connect to the goddess? How does this story connect to Kwan Yin? And they might be able to hear, oh, Kali, but when we were at the end of our last show and we were like, oh, wow, like, you know, so we're choosing to follow a path that has been trotted but before by fellow sisters and mothers, if that's not an oxymoron, fellow sisters, I don't know, but by sisters and mothers of a meditation community that we're both a part of, and they honored Kwan Yin one year and then Kali the next year. And so we're following that path more or less with our goddess hour.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the end of the last show, we were like, how do you go from Kwan Yin, who's like known as the goddess of compassion, love, that's she sacrifices her own enlightenment and her own going to whatever, into heaven, whatever heaven is in Buddhism, to stay in a body to help others reach enlightenment. Okay? And then we look at Kali, that is like Kuan Yin's all light and pink and you know and then Kali is represented dark skin, tongue out, skulls, blood,
She's a
ah,
warrior.
warrior,
Hmm.
right? And like we were like, how do we get here? Um, and then after the show, you started telling me this story and I really resonated. I was like, but to me, that's the problem I have with Kwan Yin is if you keep expanding and expanding and expanding, even if it's something that you're saying like, oh, but it's a good thing, water, life-giving water, but you really don't have the container to hold it. You don't tend the container, you lose it. You end up in destruction. And they're like, oh,
Right. Or if you take on more
uh,
than you can
uh,
really handle and you
yeah,
say yes to things and you don't set boundaries with
well, yeah.
the activities or, you know,
So in my understanding,
responsibilities in your life.
and is that this is someplace that you visited, and
Yes. Yeah.
it's
We went to
the
Colorado this
the
summer.
it's a fluvial fan that it left
Hmm.
is all this debris that this destruction left that is now itself like a place that people go and they view this because it's this beautiful rock formation. Am I understanding this
Yeah.
correctly?
Yeah. It's awe inspiring. There are these giant boulders everywhere. And it just, you can just see what happened as you're standing there looking at it and kind of climbing around on these boulders. There's
Oh,
the roaring river is still going and flowing down, but there are just these giant boulders everywhere, making this fan into the basement.
I just got chills in it. The only experience I've had that's I can maybe is similar and see if this resonates with you is the memorial fountains where and I'm almost gonna start crying where the twin towers stood because that's they've there's these two they've created a thing of beauty even though when you're standing there you can also you also know that this was a place of destruction, horror,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Oh, so there's a fluvial fan
And
is all is the leftovers. This beautiful thing is the leftover of this destruction that was created because people kept they expand they said okay nature gave us a 16-acre lake and we
yeah,
want
they
more
thought they could make it better. Hmm.
and it sounds like they did for a while like they expanded it but then they stopped taking care of it right. Ooh.
Yeah,
And and it the amount of water that they collected overwhelmed the capacity of the structure, the container. Yeah.
yeah. And then one day it just couldn't take it anymore, and it burst. So
And there was
on the
warning.
topic,
I read about this, right? That there was
there was
forewarning.
warning. Okay.
There was warning.
Hmm.
As early as 1951, people were reporting problems with this dam. So that was 31 years before it broke.
Oh, there was
And
warning.
there
Yeah.
were warning. That's what I read before we started recording. Um,
Nobody could predict the actual date or time, but
eh,
there was some
but
warning.
but the thing is anyone who you know it's like well it hasn't broken yet it must be fine right was anybody who had that
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah okay so how do we take this then to Kwan Yin to Kali.
Well, Vic, I've been trying to say that. we
I know I'm still just like
we
in the metaphor you know.
you're in the metaphor.
I am.
We are we can use this metaphor for our own lives and our own bodies. I think there's so many times in my life where I've just all of a sudden felt this overwhelm of all the things that I've said yes to and all my commitments that I have to do. And it just feels like a lot. And there have been times when my body has suffered because of the pushing I've been doing and the ignoring of my own self-care and of my own needs to at the cost of my body for what? Like just working too much.
Well, and so this is, you know, where
So
I will, it's like, okay, but you know, as feminists, we look at, so we have these individual patterns, and how is it that our culture, and how is it that our culture supports these patterns, right? And that's, and if you have any interest in hearing the previous shows where we talked about Kwan Yin, you can find that on my YouTube, my personal YouTube channel, which is Embodiment, Live Life More Fully. Or you can always send us an email at wiwv@kopn.org, and we can send you a link. But you know, I've always wrestled with Kwan Yin because of this idea of unending compassion. And that it feels, for me, it feels a little bit like being, if I'm a 16-acre lake, right? And that's why I think I'm resonating, because it's not a metaphor. This really happened, right? That lake was a living
right.
thing, right? And it was sustaining life. It was a living thing,
You
right?
are embodying this lake right
I
now.
am embodying this lake, and if we then, if I because I'm being told, oh, my lake needs to get bigger and bigger, because I need to be feeding more and more people, I need to be supporting more and more, right? But then it's very hard not to keep working to press against those edges. And I think there's some level there where that's actually a healthy thing, right? You don't, I mean, human beings, we don't just want to stay a 16-acre lake, right? We're more
Yeah.
fluid, right? But the thing is that as we grow, we need to be able to tend to that container. And if we're growing so much because of those pressures from society, well, this is what women are supposed to do, right? Supposed to do. Right? We can really push ourselves to a tipping point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think this is a good place for our first song about letting go? Do you think this sounds
Let's do it.
okay? So this is a song by Frou Frou, and it is called Let Go.